We're going to be getting into how to start an LLC in Wisconsin, and what you can see behind me here is going to be a checklist document that we're going to work through throughout this video series. And one of the most important things when you're getting your LLC set up is to know how to avoid the LLC dumpster fire. Now, what that is you get your LLC set up, which is a limited liability company, and it's doing what it's supposed to do for you, which is limit your liability. But there's an issue when you get it set up, and that results in tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees. Now, the way that typically happens is people don't understand these terms that you can see on the list here. Things such as piercing the corporate veil, registered agents, commingling funds, pass-through taxation. They also don't understand how the LLC renewal process works, or they never get their business licenses and permits set up. Now, to understand these terms, and you will very soon throughout this video series, what we should take a look at here is what an LLC actually does for your business, because a lot of times people get kind of confused on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to zoom out and then be able to zoom in on all the specifics and help you get your LLC set up in Wisconsin. So why don't we go down here, it's a video one checklist here, and understanding exactly what the LLC does. Well, two things. It offers pass-through taxation, and it's also limited liability protection. Now, what I'd like to do is go through a couple of examples here. Let's talk about owning a coffee shop without an LLC. So what we can see here is the business owner in the center, and their personal home, car, and bank account are attached to them, but then also the business assets, the business bank account, the point of sale, the actual location, the espresso machine, the lights. Everything is pointing back to the business owner. This is high liability because if something happens at that business, well, they could potentially come after your personal assets as well. But let's take a look at the example of owning an LLC that owns the coffee shop. Now what you can see is a red division in the middle that separates the business and personal assets, because the business owner is on the left-hand side, and then we have Acme Coffee LLC on the right-hand side. And that LLC is the thing that owns those items, such as the business bank account, the point of sale, the espresso machine, etc. So that red line in the middle, what that's called is the corporate veil. Now, you can recall earlier we talked about piercing the corporate veil up here. So we're going to talk about that right now, and also commingling funds as an example. What piercing the corporate veil is let's say that hypothetically someone would get injured at your coffee shop and they sue. Well, the attorney suing you is going to look for cracks in your LLC. And those cracks can be many different things. One example is commingling funds. What that is let's say that you don't get a business bank account set up right away, and you kind of drag your feet on that. So you're running your business through your personal bank account. So when you have personal funds and business funds running in and out of your personal bank account, that's called commingling funds, and that creates a crack in the LLC. So the attorney suing you might present this information to the judge and say, hey, this is not an official LLC. If the judge agrees with that attorney, they're going to allow them to pierce the corporate veil. When they do this, it erases this division between your personal and business assets. So when they sue you, they can come after your business and personal assets. So you can start to see why it's important to understand exactly what an LLC does and knowing terms like commingling funds and piercing the corporate veil. So we're going to also work through the rest of the items on this list as we keep going here. And what I want to focus on now is pass-through taxation. The reason we're covering this is a lot of times people just don't understand exactly what an LLC is in terms of like tax time. Like, how does it behave? Well, in this particular example, we're talking about Acme Coffee LLC. It grossed $140,000 with expenses of $90,000 and a $50,000 net income. The IRS is not taxing the LLC. They're taxing the business owner that owns that LLC. So what ends up happening is this $50,000 in net income passes through. Sometimes it's called flow-through taxation. So it's going to flow through or pass through to the personal tax return, and the IRS is taxing the business owner there. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. So when it gets to tax time, when you're getting set up, that you understand exactly what's happening there. Now, next, what we're going to do is actually work through a checklist of starting your LLC. Now, this can look a little bit daunting, but again, we're going to go through this step by step, and it's really broken up into three sections: before LLC formation, forming your LLC, and after. Now, step one is getting this checklist for yourself. There's going to be a QR code on the screen that you can scan. It's a free checklist that you can download via Notion documents. But there's also a link in the description below. And when you get it, I would highly advise you to check out the glossary of terms, because there's going to be a bunch of terms down here as far as LLC formation that are helpful. But the bonuses section is even better. What we have over here is an AI chatbot. So with the chatbot, what you'll be able to do is do things like start LLC in Wisconsin. And when you do this, what it's doing is giving you a tailored list of advice for the specifics that you need to be aware of when setting your LLC up in Wisconsin. Now, do you want to register an EIN? Well, this is going to explain it to you as well, but we're going to get to that later in this video. One of the other things I'd highly suggest checking out, we have a free charitable opportunity where you can earn extra income for a charity when you get set up with your LLC. We're going to get to that in the next video. But also this yearly accounting calendar we're going to talk about in the next video as well. Super helpful for getting a understanding of not only how to start your LLC, but continue to maintain it. What I want to talk about now, though, is deciding which route you go. So there's 3 different routes that really you can go for setting up your LLC. You can go through the state website. The cons of that is that the state website is hard to use, but the pros are that you're not going to be upsold anything extra. You may get upsold on an expedited processing time, but you're not going to help you with like building your website, setting up your domain, business, banking, all of those things. That can be a pro or a con because some people like that guidance, and that's where the LLC services, the online LLC services come in. Those tools out there a lot of times will offer your state fee plus free. So it'll be like, well, let me reverse that. It'll be free plus state fee. So the way that works is their initial packages, a lot of times are $0, but then they're going to upsell you into a lot of different things. Some of those things can be beneficial, some cannot. So there's some pros and cons there, but the pros there are that it's a very seamless process kind of done for you. Now, if you have a more complex situation, you may want to go with a business attorney. That could be because you have a partner, or perhaps you're already making $40,000 to $50,000 of net income in your business. Those might be reasons you want to talk to a business attorney. But for this video, what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the state website and show the PDF and answer some questions on there that may be things that confuse people and trip them up. So next note, what we're going to do is decide on a business name for your LLC. What I'll say here is a lot of times people put a lot of pressure on themselves to get like the perfect name. With your LLC, it doesn't have to be your brand name. So you may have an LLC like Acme Coffee LLC, but then within that, you can have a DBA, a doing business as, or a fictitious name is sometimes referred to as. And what that can be is something like Espresso Yourself Cafe. And you can see then how that DBA is the actual brand name, and the LLC name doesn't matter quite as much. But what does matter is that the LLC name is unique within the state of Wisconsin. So what we're going to do now is we're going to show you how to research that. So search availability of your business name. There's a state directory list here. And what you can do is you click this and then go down to Wisconsin. And when you open this up here, if you scroll down a little bit, you will find business entity search. All right. Now, if we do something kind of, very common in Wisconsin, which is badgers, and we search records, you're going to see all these names of badgers. So that's not a good name. Now, if we just kind of jam out on the keyboard and do that and search for records, here you're going to say, sorry, your search returned no records. That's telling us that this name is available within the state of Wisconsin. So next, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our list here. And then now we're going to get to forming your LLC. Now, there's a couple different steps here. And I'm actually going to work on these first 3 right here in order. The first one is registering your LLC name, and then the next one is writing your articles of organization. Well, the articles of organization is the actual document that you're going to file with the Secretary of State that sets up your LLC. So that begs the question of like, well, what is registering your LLC name? Well, this is very similar to getting a website set up. So let's say that you don't have the time or resources to get your website up and running today. What a lot of times people will do is they'll buy the domain name to secure that domain. That's what you can do with the LLC is you can actually register the name and then set it up later and file your articles of organization. But most people are going to do this all in one step. So what we're going to do here is click on the state directory list here. This is a different one. This is going to be a directory list of all the articles of organizations. These bullet points right here are going to spell out what's on there as well, but we're going to cover this in detail here as well. Now, when you're looking at this, let's take a look. First thing that pops out up here is the filing fee of $170 in the upper right-hand corner here. That filing fee, that's as of 2024, there is no way of getting around that filing fee. If you go through the state website, an online LLC service, a business attorney, you're paying that $170 to the Secretary of State for filing the articles of organization. Here's where you can see the expedited services, an extra $25. Article 1, name of the limited liability company. That's the one that you've researched that is available within the state. And then name of the initial registered agent. Now, this is really important. They kind of just breeze past this and they don't explain this. It's the same way if you were to file online with the state. What the registered agent is it's a third party that handles important communication and documentation for your business. Now, if we go back to the example of you're being sued at the coffee shop, what happens is the attorney suing you is going to whip up a service of process notice. It's probably the first time that sentence has been said. And what that service of process notice is basically saying that you're being requested to be at court. Now, the third party, that registered agent, they're going to make sure that you get that documentation. They're going to make sure that you have all of your documents that you need when you're going to court. So what they end up doing is kind of being a buffer for your business. And the rules with that registered agent is you have to have one. They have to have a physical mailing address in the state of Wisconsin, and it cannot be a P.O. box. So that is something that you need to know there. One of the cool things is those online tools. So like a lot of them for the LLC services, they will provide a free registered agent for you for the first year, one in particular, but they will also have recommendations of services that you can kind of marry into your account. Is that an extra fee? Yes, but it's an important aspect of maintaining your LLC. So I highly advise that you get that set up. And it's also nice because then you don't have to worry about like who your registered agent is going to be because it's being handled by a professional service. Now, as we go down, the mailing address of the company's principal office, the name and address. Yep. Okay. Keep going. Organizer signature printed. Yep. And then this one's pretty cut and dry here. One other thing I want to talk about is this right here, optional. This document has a delayed effective date, and it says up to 90 days after received date. Well, the reason for that is each state, sometimes people like to set up their LLC at the beginning of the calendar year in January. If you were to set it up in like December 15th, there are renewal fees that hit in quarter one of each year. And then those are extra fees that you might be paying. So a lot of times people like to set up the effective date in the beginning of January. But you can only do that 90 days out. So that's something to be aware of. Now, next what I want to talk about is we filed the Articles of Organization with the Secretary of State. We talked about the fee. If you're doing a physical mailer, you can mail it in. Most people are going to do it online, but it's just a little bit easier to show you with the PDF. But then you want to consider creating and signing an LLC operating agreement. Now, what that LLC operating agreement is a document that lays out who the members of the LLC are, what their roles and responsibilities are, but it can also lay out what happens if somebody wants to leave the LLC. So you remember earlier too, I talked about tens of thousands of dollars if they don't do things correctly in your LLC. Well, let's say that you have a partner and you end up having like 30 coffee shops. You absolutely crush it. And your partner wants out of the business. Well, how do you handle that? What does that look like? Well, if you haven't spelled that out in an operating agreement on day one, it can be a very lengthy legal battle to figure out exactly what the shares are worth for this individual. It can be a lot of time and money spent with lawyers trying to figure out what the equity of that person's stake is and what it's valued at. So again, an operating agreement is something where it's an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's just going to spell things out day one so that, again, you don't have to deal with these issues down the line. A lot of the online LLC services will have templates that you can use for this. The state's not going to help you with this. A business attorney is going to have the most dialed-in operating agreement for you because it's going to be based on your specific needs. But again, your price is going to go up substantially when you go with the business attorney. Now, after LLC formation, we talked earlier about setting up an EIN. If you click this IRS link, this really kind of goes into this in detail. It's basically an employer identification number, which is like a social security number for your business that the IRS assigns to your business. This is free to set up on this site right here, and this link will take you through that process. If you go through the online legal tools, those will go through this for you as well, but it's an additional fee. But this is something where if you're going to have staff on payroll, you're going to need an EIN to be able to process that payroll. But when you're applying for things such as an office lease or business insurance or a loan, it looks a lot better having an EIN number as opposed to putting your personal social security number on the page. So that's something that you may want to get set up right away. And this one you have to look into. Obtain business licenses and permits for your LLC. There's an SBA resource that's pretty helpful here. If you scroll down, you can go down to the state of Wisconsin and get more specifics. But the best example that I can give here is somebody who is starting a brewery, which works great for Wisconsin because there's a lot of breweries. And the brewery itself, so you are brewing beer, you're distributing beer, and you're serving beer. Those are three different things that may require different licenses and permits. And those can happen on the federal level, the state level, and the local level. Now, the local level, it may be just calling your town clerk or your city clerk and just saying, hey, I'm starting this type of business. Are there any licenses and permits that are required? Seeing if they might be able to help you out if there's anything on the county or state level. What you can also do is you can go to Google and start searching it based on your business category. But again, those online legal tools, those will do that research for you and help make sure that you get all the necessary license and permit. Now, those could be things such as like if you're a chiropractor, a dentist, you're starting a construction company. These are the types of things that may require that. Not every business does, but you definitely want to look into that after your LLC formation. Now, in the next video, what we're going to get into is the different options for LLC formation. We're going to really deep dive into the differences between the state site, online tools, and business attorneys. I highly suggest you watch it because I've seen instances where people are overpaying almost $1,500 when they're getting their LLC set up just because they don't know the basics of this information. What we're going to be looking at is the fees associated with your LLC. This is an embedded cost calculator. I'm not even going to show this to you right now, but when you go down, it's going to show you down to the dollar what your LLC is going to cost within the state of Wisconsin for 5 years, because there are recurring fees as well. So I want you to be aware of those. We're also going to get into these star ratings of comparing the different services and where the pros and cons really weigh in. We're going to talk about the difference between domestic and foreign LLCs, and that's where the state website can get a little bit hard to manage. And then also the questions worth asking. And sometimes it is worth going with a business attorney. And there may be things within your business down the line, like maybe you start to make $40,000 in net income. We'll explain why that's important. Perhaps you want to buy an actual office space down the line within your business. So again, I highly suggest you get this Notion document so you can follow along. The link is in the description below, and I'll catch you in the next video.